In this video, we will be showcasing how you can use CLI LX3 to create your own Xero client. So in the previous segment, we put the default image on the AG7000 Xero client. Now we're going to go ahead and log in as root with the default password of 12345678. And we're just going to check to make sure there are no packages installed on the device. So I bring up the package manager by going to the start button, going to all, and then package manager, and you can see there's no apps installed on the device. If there were, they would show up here on a list. So we're going to go ahead and close this out. We're going to bring up the management console on the client. This is the agent that we use to talk to the CLI device manager. And by default, the enable write protection is on. We want to make sure that the write protection is off. When it's off, the flash can be written to. Any changes can be saved to the device. When enable write protection is enabled, then no changes can be saved to the device. So now we're going to go ahead and reboot the Xero client. Now that the write protection is disabled, we're going to go ahead and reboot it. We'll stop the video right now and then pick it up after it's rebooted. Okay, now the device has rebooted and we've logged back in as root. And now we're going to go ahead and set the user desktop to auto start. So how we do that is we bring up the management console, the agent, and the auto functions. For the username, we're going to type in user. And then we're going to click on the auto login preferences. We're going to select automatic login for user. So this way the user desktop is loaded instead of the default login screen. And then we're just going to click OK. That closes that out. Now we're going to go back to the start button. We're going to load the RDP. So in this case, for this deployment, we've chosen to load an app called Remina, which is a wonderful application for RDP on the CLI Xero client. Right now, we're going out to the internet, so internet is required for this process, where we're downloading the list of packages from the CLI App Store. We'll be able to mark them and then apply them as required for your Xero client. So I'll go ahead and maximize this so you can see the full list. On the full list, we could choose from various languages of Firefox browser. There's a Chrome browser. There's a Citrix client. And in this case, like I had mentioned, we're going to be selecting RDP, which is Remina. So we'll go ahead and right-click that client. We're going to mark it for installation. You will see a dialog that pops up with all of the associated apps that are required for Remina to work. Click Mark. Everything shows up in green that's associated with Remina. Once I click Apply, you will get a warning message showing that these are about to be downloaded and installed on the device. Once we click Apply here, it will go out to the internet. It will download the package files and then automatically install them. At this point, we'll go ahead and stop the recording and pick it up in a moment or so. And now that the app has been downloaded and installed, you'll see the final dialog box, which you can close. And now you will see the list of all those associated apps for Remina to work are now showing up in green. So we can go ahead and close this. Synaptic Package Manager, go ahead and close that. Now we're going to go ahead and log off the root since we've finished installing that software. We're going to log in as user. And again with the default password of 1234567 you'll be presented with the user desktop for the first time. And in this case, we don't want to use this blue background, so we're going to install a wallpaper of our own. So if we're going to do that with a USB disk, I just put the USB disk into the client. You should see it pop up here. So I'm going to open that up. I'm going to find the picture that I want, right mouse click it, and select Set as Wallpaper. And you can see that the change is immediate, and that's the wallpaper that I want. The other thing that I want to do is right click on the desktop to bring up the menu for desktop settings, where we're going to get rid of the trash icon, and we're also going to choose the folder that our background is stored in on the device. Once that's been done, we can close that out. We can then eject and pull out the USB disk. We're ready to configure the RDP. So clicking on the Start button, go to All, selecting Remote Desktop Client. Bring this down in the middle here. Click on the plus sign, and we're going to call this CLI RDP. And for this deployment, for the protocol, we are using RDP. You could select any of these other protocol types from the menu, as Remina does support multiple protocols. In this case, we're going to do a basic configuration, where we're just going to put in the server's IP address. We could also put in the username, password, domain, any other associated information that your environment requires on the basic tab. On the advanced tab, you can click on the quality of the network speed, sound, security, and any other associated functions that are normally done for RDP sessions. You could also enable SSH and put in the appropriate authentication if required. But in this case, it's just a basic RDP connection, so we'll go ahead and save that. You'll see that the icon shows up on the user desktop right away, so we can go ahead and close that. And now that we're done configuring the RDP session, we want to get rid of the Start button and the taskbar so that we can make this lockdown and a kiosk for the user. So that way the user can't get into these things. It's going to be completely locked down and only going to be able to get to the RDP icon on the desktop. So we'll go ahead and log off the root, or log in as root again. We're going to go ahead and bring up the management console again, where in this case we are going to want the write protection enabled, because that work that we just did, we want to make sure that that integrity is maintained. So we're going to go ahead and enable write protection. We're going to set a strong root password. Again, we don't have to worry about the user password. But we do want to select applications that are going to launch for the user. So we select the preferences for auto run, click on the application auto start tab, and I'm going to go ahead and maximize this so you can see the full screen. And this is a list of all the apps that we can choose from that we can auto launch. In this case, we want the CLI RDP session that we just created, as well as the kiosk mode, which is the lockdown that removes the start button and the taskbar. Once that's done, we can close this. We can also set a VNC password for the VNC session, and later we will come back to this where we actually set the default application where we're saving all that work on the local flash, in that if it's ever reset to default, the RDP session is not wiped out. So there would be two methods to reset, well, three methods including re-imaging. But to reset the device to default with write protection disabled wipes out the configuration of the RDP, any security you set on the device, like that. But it maintains the apps on the app list. When you have enable write protection on and reset to default, no changes are made to the device, and it comes back just as you left it. So we're going to go ahead and come back to this later in a few moments. So from here we're done configuring the Xero client. We're going to go ahead and just take a look at it to make sure that that desktop is locked down. So we're just going to quickly log off the root user and log in as user again. And just to make sure the user is locked down, and it is, because it auto-launched the RDP session and it wants the certificate. So we're going to go ahead and log in, make sure that this works. And it should. It's going to a little bit older server, so we'll see the typical Windows desktop come up when you log into this particular RDP session. And this will take a moment for the desktop to come up, and it looks like it's working so far so good. And we'll go ahead and just log off this RDP session. And it looks good. Now, since it's in the kiosk mode, you notice there's no start button, no taskbar, anything like that. It's completely locked down. CLI does have a hotkey to be able to get out of this mode. You press Alt, Control, Shift, and Escape to bring up the log off dialog, which allows you to log out, restart, shut down, or suspend the session. You can also cancel that. In this case, we do want to restart because we just enabled the write protection. So we'll go ahead and stop the video here while the device reboots. Okay, now the device is rebooted, and all that the user is presented with is just the RDP sign-on screen. He can only click cancel or attempt to sign in. And to finish the process, we're going to go ahead and log off the kiosk. We're going to log in as root. And to finish the process, we're going to go ahead and use the set default application, which is a new feature of the CLI LX3 Xero client. When we click the button, click yes. Do not want to disable the write protection. Click no. What's happening here is the device is updating the software list that we just created, and all the work that we just did with loading the app and downloading the app and installing the app, and in this case it was RDP. Of course, it could have been another app like Citrix, or maybe you want Citrix plus RDP, or maybe you want RDP plus Term Pro, or maybe you want RDP plus Chrome and you want two monitors. You can create your own Xero client using this tool. And what it does is allow the device to maintain on the local flash your own Xero client. So we'll go ahead and stop the video here. This will take a couple of minutes to download the software. There will be 2 reboots that it goes through as it is performing this process. And in the next segment, we will be showing you how to pull the data configuration file so that you can clone out this Xero client to other CLI Xero clients that you in your environment. You will be using the CLI device manager for that process, as was shown in the first segment. If you do need further information, go to www.computerlab.com or call us at 800-727-5250. And option 3 is for tech support. Option 2 is for sales. Thanks for watching.